Information discussed in this podcast may be sensitive in nature to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Lisa Lynn Stone had a lot of tragedy in her life, but in 2010, she was 51 years old and doing her best to live life to the fullest. Friends describe her as funny, outgoing, bubbly, and love to laugh and make others laugh. In 2010, she was also living with her partner of 15 years, Sherry Henry. And Sherry would tell a little bit different story of Lisa, a story of struggling with depression and some drug use. But Sherry says that she loved Lisa and she believed that Lisa loved her. As an adult, Lisa would reconnect with some of her former high school friends. They would stay in touch regularly after that, often chatting on social media and sharing photos and texting. A neighbor of Lisa's remembered seeing her on June 4th, 2010, but after several days went by with no sign of Lisa, they became worried. This was not like her at all. Her friends also noticed that her daily social media posting had abruptly stopped, also on June 4th. By June 20th, they had officially reported her missing. Sherry, Lisa's longtime partner, said she didn't think anything was wrong and that Lisa had probably just taken off. No one besides Sherry believed that, however, and Lisa hasn't been seen or heard from since. Where is Lisa Lynn Stone?
Some people would call us nosy. And we've had to be nosy because that's what has given us the drive to keep going. Lisa was there one day chatting me and emailing and calling us, and just the next day gone. Lisa was just very full of life, very energetic, bubbly person, just a lot of fun. She was instant friends with anybody, really, that she came in contact with. She found humor in everything. Lisa and I were the drill team together. She just vanished. No trace. I knew instantly something was wrong. For her to go missing even for one day is highly unusual and abnormal. We went out a lot on the weekends to the disco, snuck in sometimes. We were a little underage. She loved that. She loved to have a good time, and she loved to dance.
Hello, and welcome back to the Where Are They podcast. If you are new here, I so appreciate you listening to these cases. We try to tell the stories of some of the lesser known, unsolved missing person cases out there. And with the thousands, tens of thousands active every day in the US and Canada alone, there are no shortage of stories to tell. And it still baffles me every day. How can so many people just disappear? Today's case, the story of Lisa Lynn Stone, is our third episode in our Pride Month series. Lisa's story was featured on 48 Hours several years ago, so her case received a little more media attention than our previous two cases that we recently covered. And most of that was due to the determination and tenacity of her three friends who have worked to keep her case in the media spotlight, at least to some degree. Although, to this day, 12 years after her disappearance, we still have no answers as to the whereabouts of Lisa Stone. So let's get into the story of Lisa Lynn Stone. Lisa was born in the Dallas, Texas area on September 3rd, 1958. She had two brothers and one sister, and overall a pretty close-knit family. Her dad was a police officer, and her mother was a stay-at-home mom. In high school, Lisa was beautiful, bubbly, and fun, participating on the drill team, which, of course, during that time in Texas was a pretty big deal. She was very likable and had a lot of friends. Lisa would go on to graduate from Mesquite High School. Mesquite is an eastern suburb of Dallas, Texas. She did suffer some sadness in her life, however, when she lost her sister to a car accident. And then her brother died from AIDS. In the 1990s, Lisa, who, like her brother, had come out as gay, went out for the night to a club. It was there she met Sherry. Sherry describes their relationship as happening almost immediately. They would become more serious throughout the years. And in 2005, after Lisa's father passed away, Sherry moved in. Take a listen to what Sherry had to say about Lisa on her 48 Hours interview.
My name is Sherry Henry, and Lisa is my partner of 15 plus years. When I first met Lisa, I walked into the club. She was across the way, and our eyes met. She came over and started chatting with me, and we hit it off. Were you a couple almost immediately? Almost immediately. Were you in love with her? Very much. And was she in love with you? I would hope. Did you consider yourselves married? Yes.
Earlier, Lisa had lost her mother to cancer, and she would live with her dad, who was a retired police officer, until he passed away in 2005, at which time Sherry would move in. Around the same time in life, Lisa lost her job in newspaper ad sales. Sherry claimed that all of that happening would be a turning point for Lisa. Lisa had inherited a sizable amount of money from her family, almost $300,000. Although it's unclear exactly what happened to it, most of that money would be gone by 2010. Some say that Sherry had actually spent it all, while Sherry claims that it was Lisa. Lisa had kept in close contact with her friend group from high school after reuniting with them at a class reunion. These women were her former drill team teammates, and they talked and texted regularly. Most of them were very active by now on Facebook, and they used that as a way to keep in touch as well. Lisa's friends knew she had some struggles. I mean, this woman had been through a lot, losing many family members, some in tragic and sad ways. Leading up to 2010, they also knew that Lisa had begun to have some financial struggles. In fact, at one point, when she told them she was broke, they loaned her some money. In early 2010, one of those friends went to lunch with Lisa. This friend says that Lisa had expressed to her that her relationship with Sherry wasn't going great. And her friend actually urged her to leave, but Lisa wouldn't listen. So at this time, in 2010, Lisa and Sherry were living in a home owned by Lisa, a home that Lisa had inherited from her family in Dallas, Texas. Lisa posted daily on Facebook, so most of her friends knew her struggles as she was very open about it in her posts. But no one knows exactly what was going on behind closed doors in their home. Well, no one except Lisa and Sherry. But two very different stories of Lisa would soon emerge. The disappearance. On June 4th, 2010, a neighbor had a chat with Lisa. Lisa was going to be taking her trash out for her the next day, and the neighbor wanted to confirm that Lisa would be able to do that. Lisa, of course, said absolutely. When they parted ways, Lisa told her she'd see her tomorrow. And it seems like Lisa and this neighbor were pretty close, Lisa often helping the neighbor out with these daily type of chores. And in fact, Lisa would also be picking up her neighbor's daughter at the airport in just a couple of weeks. But on June 5th, 2010, the very next day, the neighbor gets a call from Sherry. Now, Susan says she was always pretty close with Lisa, but never Sherry. And prior to that day, Sherry had never reached out to her for any real reason. But this day, Sherry called with some distressing news. Sherry said that Lisa had to have emergency gallbladder surgery and wouldn't be able to help her get the trash out, so instead, Sherry was going to help her. The neighbor, of course, was worried for her friend, for Lisa, but thought that it was nice of Sherry to come over and help her and just overall hoped that everything would be okay with Lisa and her surgery. But a few days would go by, and no one now had heard from Lisa. Her friends started checking in with one another to see if they had heard from her, if anyone had heard from her, but no one had. They also thought it was strange that Lisa hadn't posted on Facebook at all, and Lisa was someone who posted every single day, without fail. So one of her friends, not being able to reach Lisa, finally calls Sherry and asks where Lisa is. But Sherry just said that she had left town for a while. Sherry wasn't worried or concerned at all. Still, her friends didn't think that sounded right, and they still tried desperately to get in touch with Lisa. And as days went by, and eventually weeks, they start zeroing in on Sherry. And Sherry, according to the friends, started giving them different stories as to where Lisa was. But still said she wasn't worried at all, and that Lisa wasn't missing, she had just simply left. One of the friends said that a few of them went over one evening to talk with Sherry and try and get some answers. They said that Sherry invited them in the house and told them that Lisa was expected home that night and she was going to order pizza for dinner. She said the friends could stay and wait if they wanted, which they did, for an hour and a half. But still no Lisa. Sherry, however, says that that story is a complete lie, that no one ever came into her house at all. There was no talk of ordering pizza or Lisa coming home that night, that none of that ever happened. On June 20th, the neighbor finally makes a missing persons report on Lisa Stone. Law enforcement came out and took the call and spoke to Sherry as well. But within 5 days, they closed the case, believing that Lisa just likely took off on her own. There was no signs of foul play or a crime being committed. And Sherry, her partner, her roommate, her friend, said there was nothing to worry about, that Lisa had just left. On June 29th, the police get a call asking them to do a welfare check on Lisa. When they arrived at the home that day, Sherry told this officer that Lisa was away at a funeral. Lisa's friends decided they needed to start investigating for themselves to find their friend. Law enforcement wasn't taking it seriously, but they knew in their hearts that something was very, very wrong. A few days later, on July 2nd, one of the friends decided to drive over to Sherry and Lisa's house one evening and confront Sherry, make Sherry talk to her. But en route, she happened to see Sherry driving Lisa's car while sitting at a red light, and she decided to follow her. Sherry would drive just down the street to a nearby 7-Eleven convenience store and pulled up to the dumpster area. The friend parked at a gas pump and tried to watch her discreetly. She says that she saw Sherry toss in what looked like some baskets and a small suitcase. And after Sherry drove away, the friend went to the dumpster and pulled the suitcase out, and what she found inside made her heart stop. In that small suitcase was Lisa's birth certificate, some paperwork belonging to Lisa, and a whole bunch of personal photographs. Even Lisa's brother's death certificate, all being thrown in the trash. The friends decided to take this information to law enforcement and demand answers. Meanwhile, Susan, Lisa and Sherry's neighbor, also began to have her suspicions too. She recalled some odd things happening around the time Lisa vanished. Of course, the first being that strange story about Lisa's gallbladder surgery. Susan says that she also went inside their home at one point and said that the house itself was pretty messy, but the bathroom was spotless and very thoroughly cleaned from top to bottom. She also noticed that Sherry's hands were red and raw, perhaps from using intense cleaning products such as bleach. As the neighbor and the friends voiced their opinions, Sherry would get defensive. She would claim that she is the victim of a witch hunt and that these stories are of things that never happened, that are completely 100% made up. After the friends had marched into the offices of law enforcement in Dallas, Texas, however, the authorities agreed that their findings were indeed suspicious and they would reopen the case. The search. The search for Lisa would take some twists and turns along the way, quite a bit, actually, just like the process of reporting her missing was. First, authorities do go to the home of Sherry and Lisa to question Sherry. They specifically ask her why she never reported Lisa missing herself. And Sherry replied that, well, she just simply doesn't think Lisa is missing. She thinks Lisa left on her own accord. But investigators point out that Lisa left behind her car and her purse. And they also mention the suitcase full of items that she was seen throwing away. But again, Sherry said that that story was completely false, totally made up. She believed that the friends might have broken and stole the items out of her house. She would also say that what a lot of people didn't know about Lisa was that she had been struggling really bad. She had run out of money, she was severely depressed, and according to Sherry, she had recently started doing cocaine. Her friends can believe the running out of money part. After all, Lisa had told them that herself, and they could also believe that she was depressed. That was also something that Lisa had been open with them about. Lisa was an open book, especially on her Facebook page. But cocaine? That just didn't make any sense to them. But unfortunately, the search at the home turned up no evidence of where Lisa might have gone. But what is interesting is that after they did visit the home, authorities called animal control, who would end up removing 26 cats and 2 dogs from the home, citing unsanitary conditions. Although reports on the actual number of cats removed does vary, all of the reports have that number in the 20s. Sherry said those pets were Lisa's. Lisa's friends again say that Lisa was a huge animal lover. Her pets are what got her through the day on most occasions. They don't believe she would have ever left them. Another strange incident would come up shortly after the home search when Sherry was spotted running back by a creek behind their house in a wooded area. She was completely disheveled looking, she was covered in mud, and she was on the run. Later, when questioned by authorities if that was her, she admitted that it was. So everyone immediately wondered, what was she up to back by that creek? Why was she acting like that? And why was she covered in mud? They would end up searching that entire wooded area in the creek. And Sherry said that she was running because she feared for her life. She said she had seen people going up near her house. And at one point, she even thought that there were some women chasing her, which is why she was running. She also says that at one point, while hiding behind a tree or some structure to look at her house, she thought she saw the blinds move and she believed that someone was actually inside of her house. So she got scared and took off. Sherry said that she knew people blamed her for Lisa's disappearance and she felt these people were after her. In July, police received a tip that took them to Hunt County, Texas, where they searched a grassy area, just a small 1 square mile search area. And that search, however, didn't turn up any clues or leads. And it was never really revealed what tip led them there in the first place. So let's take a look at the area in which all of this is happening. Lisa had inherited the home at 3323 Truxillo Drive in Dallas. This is a populated neighborhood area. But the interesting thing about her home in particular was the extra tall privacy fence that surrounded the home, keeping everything behind it completely out of view. The area of Truxillo Drive, this neighborhood, is nearby two lakes. White Rock Lake is 4 miles to the west of the home, and Lake Ray Hubbard, a larger lake, sits 8 miles to the east. And of course, the surrounding areas near those lakes shows a lot of parkland and woods as well. The area they searched in Hunt County, Texas, specifically was in the town of Greenville, about 45 miles from the home on Truxillo. They never did elaborate as to what had led them to search that area, and nothing of any consequence, of course, was found. Meanwhile, Sherry maintains her innocence and claims that Lisa was struggling more than people know, both with her mental health and her drug use. Sherry thinks that she has been the victim, a victim of a witch hunt on her, and has spoken out to her innocence.
But Sherry says there's nothing to piece together. Did you file a missing persons report? No, I did not. Was there ever a time when you thought, as her life partner, that you should file a missing persons report? No, at the time, prior to me leaving Dallas, Lisa Stone is not missing. I felt the day I was surrounded by at least 10 or 15 women in their SUVs and cars trying to track me down. And I felt like I was a rabbit being chased for the hunt. I come home. When I come around the back alley and go through the gate, I see the blinds part. Inside your house? Inside the house. So I get a little freaked. I'm thinking somebody's in the house. Now you tell me, you wouldn't be scared for that? I'm afraid. I went around through the woods off of that creek area. You will not tear down my life. You will not point the finger at me until you have verifiable proof that I have ever done anything other than support Lisa Stone in whatever she wanted to accomplish in her life. Lisa and I love each other. End of discussion.
Law enforcement has said that Sherry is a person of interest. In fact, she is their main person of interest. But to date, no evidence has been found to link Sherry to doing anything to Lisa. It seems that the authorities have acknowledged that something is very wrong in Lisa's disappearance, but friends and those involved in the case believe that they haven't taken them as seriously as they should have, especially from the beginning. Her friends have even said that they themselves have done far more investigating than law enforcement. And in fact, Sherry has filed complaints against these friends for stalking her and harassing her, in which authorities have had to warn the friends to back off. Another interesting fact about Sherry is that in 1995, she was convicted of fraud and forgery for, get this, forging a check from Lisa's father's account for $8,000. But Sherry does admit that she did do that. She claims that she has changed her ways after that and owned up to her mistakes. Lisa's friends still refuse to believe that their vivacious, full-of-life friend left on her own. What do you think happened to Lisa Lynn Stone? Lisa is described as a Caucasian woman standing 5'6" tall, with dyed blonde hair when she was last seen in June of 2010. At that time, she weighed around 130 pounds. Lisa was 51 years old and would today be 63. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Lisa Lynn Stone, please contact the Dallas Police Department at 214-671-4316. In 2020, Benita Woody had two focuses in her life: her family and her church. She had a big family that she was very close with. She adored her children beyond measure and spent much of her time at church. Benita also loved to shop, and by looking at some of her photos, she is a beautiful and stylish woman. Benita's family said that she also had very short hair, but would change up her style often by wearing different wigs. You just never knew what Benita's hairstyle would be, and she was always very put together and polished in her appearance. In 2020, Benita was living in McKinney, Texas, quite a far ways away from where she had lived previously and where many of her family still is in the state of New Jersey. On August 5th, 2020, Benita left McKinney, Texas for reasons unknown. Her car was found abandoned later that day in rural Oklahoma, but Benita was nowhere to be found. In fact, Benita has never been seen or heard from again. Where is Benita Woody? Hello, and welcome back to the Where Are They podcast. Our show here has a mission, and that is to share the stories of unsolved missing person cases with the hope that somewhere, someone does know something and can come forward. We also strive to tell the lesser known stories, the ones that really need some attention and focus. The story of Benita Woody is likely one you hadn't heard of before, yet it's mysterious, baffling, confusing, all the things a news media outlet should latch onto. Benita is a mother, a sister, a daughter, an aunt, and a friend to everyone. She didn't live an at-risk lifestyle. She wasn't the type to leave her family. In fact, the opposite couldn't be more true. In the thousands of missing person cases reported to law enforcement each month, most do have an at-risk lifestyle or elements in their story that could lead to some trouble. But not Benita. So let's take a look at the case of Benita Woody. If you are a repeat listener, you've heard me say this before, but there just aren't many case details out there to report, and what we do know is baffling. Who is Benita Woody? Benita Woody is a mother, a sister, an aunt, a daughter, a friend, and so much more to the many people that she had around her in her life. Benita was born on January 23rd, 1978 in New Jersey. She has several brothers and sisters, and overall a very close-knit family. Benita would also go on to have children of her own and be a devoted mother. As an adult, she attended Rider University in New Jersey. Rider is a nonprofit, private, liberal arts university in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, just north of Trenton and near the Pennsylvania border. She graduated in 2009 with a degree in law and justice. While her LinkedIn profile doesn't have too much information on it, it does state this regarding her work information. Quote, "In my current position, I find joy in servicing, engaging, and meeting persons from different ethnic groups to resolve potential violations of the state of New Jersey policy prohibiting discrimination in the workplace." End quote. You can see that she definitely had a passion for law and diversity in the workplace. So that might give us a little insight into Benita's work, at least while she resided in New Jersey. But at some point, Benita would relocate 1,500 miles away to McKinney, Texas. In August of 2020, that's exactly where Benita lives, McKinney, Texas. And McKinney is about 30 miles from the center of Dallas and about a 45-minute drive to the north. We will be looking a little more into the area as we dive into her disappearance. The disappearance. For some reason, on Wednesday, August 5th, 2020, Benita got into her gray 2007 GMC Yukon and drove off. I don't know the specifics of that day or where she was exactly when she was seen getting into her vehicle, but we do know she was at least seen once that day by someone. Meanwhile, later that day, Officers up in Oklahoma found an abandoned gray 2007 GMC Yukon on the side of Highway 40. They ran the plates, determined it belonged to Benita Woody, and tagged the car, one of those that gives the owner some time to get the car removed from the highway. Friends and family did start to become concerned when they couldn't reach Benita. Calls to her cell phone just continually went unanswered. On Monday, August 10th, 2020, 5 days after authorities tagged that abandoned GMC Yukon, they had the vehicle towed. On Friday, August 14th, 2020, McKinney, Texas takes an official missing person report on Benita Woody. The search. It took some time to connect the dots, and when the family realized her vehicle was found in Oklahoma, it was even more confusing to them. There wasn't any reason for Benita to travel to Oklahoma, and she hadn't told anyone that she had any plans to do so. Searches in and around where the vehicle was found yielded no clues. I was reading through Benita's thread on Web Sleuths, and one interesting fact stood out, and I was able to verify it. They did find a half-eaten burrito in her vehicle. Why is that significant? Because Benita's family said that that was something that she would have never eaten. So, is the burrito a clue? If it didn't belong to Benita, who did it belong to? Or had Benita perhaps made a decision to just try a burrito on that day? Benita's cell phone was pinged in the area where her vehicle was found. I tried to find specific information on her vehicle itself, such as, was it out of gas? Had it broken down? Was there anything mechanically wrong with it? Was there any logical reason that it was pulled over and parked on the highway? And this leads me to bring up the power of media in her case. How many people likely passed by her Yukon? Someone had to see something. If her case had been plastered all over local media, maybe someone would have remembered something and came forward, such as, was it Benita in that vehicle? Was she alone? Was it someone else completely? Did they walk away from the truck, or were they seen getting into another vehicle? I'm sure as time goes on, people's memory fades, especially something like that. I couldn't tell you if I passed anyone on the road a year and a half ago, but I probably could have told you that day or the day or two that followed. Authorities are able to ping her cell phone, and it did indeed last ping near where her car was found. And that area is known as Canadian County. Not much in that area. It's very, very sparse and very rural. So, since Benita's phone pinged there, does that mean Benita herself was there, or possibly just her cell phone was? Details of any actual physical searches that were conducted weren't made public, but I'd like to think that authorities searched that area where her car was found. And first, I would like to mention we don't have any confirmation that Benita was in the vehicle in Oklahoma. Maybe it was her that drove it there, but maybe it wasn't. These are details that have never been confirmed, but it can't be ruled out. And since her vehicle and her phone last pinged from there, it seems like that part of Oklahoma is a good place to start. Okay, let's take a look at the map. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put up some screenshots and photos of the area we are talking about. Her vehicle was found on I-40 westbound in Canadian County, Oklahoma, near the Geary, Oklahoma exit. It was noted that this was a rural area, and you can definitely see that by looking at Google Maps. Lots of green. In fact, the town of Geary is a short drive from the highway. The highway doesn't actually run through Geary. Where the highway is completely rural. So if you break down or run out of gas, your best bet is to call someone to come get you. If you choose to walk somewhere, you have quite a ways to go before you find any civilization. There are a few other small towns about equal distance from the highway as Geary is. There's Calumet, Bridgeport, Hinton, But Geary actually looks like a little more substantial size-wise town, even though that really isn't saying much. Geary is a farm community with a population of just around 1,200 residents. The closest big city would be Oklahoma City. If Benita had driven from McKinney, Texas, to where her car was found, she likely would have taken Route 35 north from McKinney into Oklahoma City. It's a straight shot. And then from there, took I-40 westbound. The route is pretty much straightforward, north and then turning west. So she already would have drove through Oklahoma City, and her vehicle was found about an hour away. If she had needed gas, there was plenty of opportunity to do just that in Oklahoma City. However, if someone else was driving her car, maybe they didn't want to stop. Maybe their plan was to run it out of gas and leave it from there, hoping it would be as far away from McKinney, Texas as they could get it. The drive from McKinney, Texas to Geary, Oklahoma is about a 4-hour drive with really only small towns in between until you reach Oklahoma City. We don't know a whole lot about Benita's personal life in McKinney, so it's hard to pinpoint any other search locations or areas to focus on. McKinney is a larger Texas city with just about 200,000 residents. It was listed as America's third fastest growing city in 2017. And in 2014, Money Magazine designated McKinney, Texas as one of the best places to live in the United States. Maybe that's partly what brought Benita to the area. We do know that she was very involved in church, but I'm not exactly sure which one in McKinney she was attending regularly. The churches she has referenced on social media are not in the Texas area. So it's tough to narrow it down to just one particular part of McKinney to look at. The possibilities. Let's talk about what could have happened in the case of Benita Woody. I don't think we have enough information to really designate any theories, so I'm going to call them possibilities. Possibility number 1. Benita left on her own. This could go two different ways, really. Benita left on her own, abandoned her vehicle, and is living a life somewhere new right now. Maybe she even had someone helping her, or maybe she was able to plan it all out herself. Or maybe Benita left on her own to begin with, but then met with trouble or foul play along the way. Either way, it is possible that she left on her own. However, her friends and family say absolutely no way would she abandon her children and her large, extensive family. From the looks of it, she was a very devoted mother, sister, friend, and very involved with her church. So while it is possible, I don't know if it is likely. Possibility number 2. Carjacking. Was Benita the victim of a carjacking? The fact that her vehicle was found 4 hours away, abandoned on the highway, suggests that this could be possible. But why? And then why abandon the vehicle? And where is Benita? Possibility number 3. Something happened to Benita in the McKinney area, and then the offender or offenders took her vehicle as far as they could to get rid of it. But then again, we have to ask the question, where is Benita? It's always tough when there is so little to go on. To figure out what the possibilities are here, it seems like almost anything could be possible. The only clue we really have is that her vehicle was found near Geary, Oklahoma, abandoned on the side of the highway 4 hours from her home. This case is seriously baffling. Baffling not only that we don't know where Benita is, but baffling that we don't have any more clues or information. She literally seemed to have vanished into thin air. But I have questions. Was her phone ever found, and was her search history examined? Her call log? What was she doing leading up to when she disappeared? Most seasoned detectives will tell you that is usually the key to finding the clues of what happened in a missing persons case. Were any of her other electronics searched through? Computer, tablet? And who were her connections in the McKinney area? Who knew her? Has anyone come forward to make any statements or talk to anybody about where Benita is? It does seem that the Texas authorities have taken this case somewhat seriously, according to family, but Oklahoma, not so much. And as for the agencies involved, we have the New Jersey authorities, because she was from there and family is still there. We have the McKinney Police Department. And in Oklahoma, we have the Canadian County Sheriff's Office involved. And yet still no clues on Benita. Her family runs a Facebook page. Please go check it out and show your support. You can find it under Missing Help Find Benita. Every share, every like, every comment helps boost the page in the rankings. The higher it's ranked, the more people will see it. I truly think someone out there knows something. Someone had to see Benita or see her vehicle being abandoned on August 5th. Someone out there needs to come forward. Benita is described as a Black female, 5'6" tall and about 170 pounds when she disappeared. She wears her hair very short and likes to wear different wigs to change up her look. She has brown hair and brown eyes, and her ears are pierced. She was 42 years old when she disappeared on August 5th of 2020 and would today be 44. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Benita Woody, please contact either the New Jersey State Police Missing Persons Unit at 609-882-2000, and there is a partial case number listed of H660-2020. Or you can contact the McKinney Police Department at 972-547-2700 and reference case number 20-006216. Sarah Kinslow grew up with 3 siblings and loving parents. Sarah and her family lived in Greenville, Texas, an area of the state located just to the northeast of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. As a child, Sarah was very musical. She loved to sing, play piano, and was not shy to perform in front of an audience. In her teen years, however, Sarah hit the typical teenage rebellion streak. That rebellion escalated when she, at just 14 years old, began dating an 18-year-old. An 18-year-old that had a reputation in the area for drugs and crime. Her parents weren't happy and tried to convince Sarah that she was making some bad decisions. But Sarah wasn't listening. On May 1st, 2001, Sarah's father, John, drove her to school. He took her a little earlier than usual because she told him that she had plans to meet with some of her friends before the start of the day. John dropped his daughter off at Greenville Middle School and drove off, unaware that that was the last time he would see his daughter. Sarah wouldn't come home from school, and her parents would learn that Sarah didn't even attend school that day. Sightings would come in and controversy would arise if they were credible or not. In fact, people and sources still have conflicting information on this. But Sarah remains missing. Where is Sarah Elizabeth Kinslow? Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Where Are They podcast and another unsolved missing person case. Technically a missing child's case, as Sarah was just 14 years old, very much a minor. Just a quick warning, this case did make my head spin a bit with conflicting reports and all of the rumors out there. So many rumors. And sure, all of these unsolved cases that we talk about have rumors, especially ones that have been unsolved as long as Sarah's 22 years. But the rumors in this case are more than plentiful, and it makes me wonder why. Who starts these rumors? Is it an attempt to lead people in the wrong direction? Or is it simply something like the telephone game we played as kids? The more people that share the story and talk about it, it slowly changes over time. I do suspect it's a combination of both. Before we jump in, a big welcome to our newest Patreon members, Eve and Queen Bee. Thank you for your support of our show. You can find the links to Patreon and all of our social medias in the show notes. Please make sure you are following us over there. We share regularly on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find us on Facebook as well. Let's head to Greenville, Texas, and talk about the story of Sarah Kinslow. Sarah Elizabeth Kinslow was born June 14th, 1986, to parents Louise and John. She had 3 siblings, and she grew up in a happy household. Sarah was known to love holidays as a child, especially Christmas. In fact, her parents recall that she was the first one up every Christmas morning, excitedly waking up everyone else in the house so they could open presents. She would even take her stocking and jump into bed with her parents, unable to contain her excitement. And this is how all Christmases would be in the Kinslow household until Sarah became a teenager. Sarah was also very talented musically. She loved to sing, and she often performed solos in her church choir. At age 6, Sarah began taking piano lessons and soon excelled at that as well. In March of 2000, when Sarah was just 13 years old, she competed in the American Women Composers Competition, and she would take home first place. She had a bright future ahead of her with music, but Sarah would soon lose her way. When Sarah was 14 years old and attending Greenville Middle School in Greenville, Texas, she somehow met 18-year-old Curtis Wayne Bell. And Sarah was immediately struck by him, and in March of 2001, according to Sarah's diary, they would become boyfriend-girlfriend. Suffice to say, Sarah's parents were not happy, not just because of the age difference, but Curtis was known to be a little bit of a troublemaker, and her parents feared that he dabbled in drugs and would introduce Sarah to that world. And like any parent, they wanted to protect their daughter. But it is believed that that is exactly what happened. Sarah's parents often argued with her about Curtis and about her behavior. She began staying out late, disobeying her curfew, and just being overall rebellious. Louise remembers one fight with her daughter where Sarah was starting to pack a bag and threatened to run away. Louise stopped her, and Sarah looked her straight in the eyes and said that she promised one day she would be gone. Louise said that gave her chills in that moment because she could tell that Sarah meant it. The disappearance. On May 1st, 2001, John drove Sarah to school that morning. They had left a little earlier than usual because Sarah had told him that she was meeting with some friends just before school would start. John dropped her off and drove away at 7:20 a.m. Later that afternoon, Sarah didn't come home from school, and around the time her parents started to wonder about her, they received a phone call from the school. Sarah had been marked absent that day. I just covered the case of Nathaniel Holmes, and this issue came up there as well. But I think it's interesting that schools now wait until after school to call home and alert the parents that the children weren't there. They claim it's a better time to reach the parents and not have the child intercept the call. In my experiences, I've always known schools to call in the morning, which in the cases of these missing children could alert parents much sooner that something is wrong, something is very wrong, and they can begin searching right away. John and Louise are alarmed, learning that their daughter didn't go to school that day, but she had been acting rebellious. They start by calling around to Sarah's friends, but no one knew where she was. Finally, one of the friends would tell John and Louise that a group of them did have plans to skip school that day, and they were going to meet up at a local cemetery, the East Mount Cemetery. But Sarah never showed up. It was then that her parents realized they needed to contact authorities and report their daughter missing. The search. Authorities classified Sarah as a runaway, and her parents believed that was a likely scenario as well. After all, they had been having some trouble with her recently, and she had even made threats to run away. Law enforcement began by questioning the friends and Curtis, who denied knowing where Sarah was. At some point, some of these friends were even given polygraph tests, and many of them failed. But due to the unreliable nature of polygraphs, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. However, I do think it's interesting. Search dogs were also taken to the school to see if they could follow Sarah's scent, which they did for a little while anyway. They tracked her scent for 2 blocks from the school when they lost it. And authorities believe at that point she likely got into a vehicle. Investigators also took Sarah's diary. And it was here they learned a lot about Sarah's relationship with Curtis. She wrote about Curtis every day, talking about how much she was in love with him. And if her parents were to forbid her from being with him, they planned to run away to Mexico and get married. Curtis was questioned about this, and he said that they were really just joking around when they talked like that. It was never actually a serious plan, at least not for him. But John and Louise believed early on that Curtis knew more than he was saying. The family, not about to sit around and do nothing, begins putting up missing flyers all over their area. They concentrated on Greenville, and then they expanded out and covered areas of Quinlan, where Curtis lived. And they noticed something peculiar. Within a day or two of putting up flyers in Quinlan, those flyers were taken down. Meanwhile, rumors began to circulate and people began to say terrible things about the Kinslow family, thinking that Sarah ran away because they were possibly abusive and they weren't going to do anything that could send her back there. Meaning, if anyone saw her, they weren't going to report it. Her family was devastated. Sarah's older brother, Jerry, during this time was in prison. And the specifics aren't known as to why, nor are they really important. But Jerry said that he talked to a lot of people in prison that knew Curtis Bell, and they said he was trouble. They all said that Curtis was known for picking up younger girls and drugging them, and then allowing his group of friends to do what they want with them. Immediately, John and Louise wondered if something like that could have happened to Sarah. Perhaps she accidentally overdosed and Curtis had to hide her body. The family did get the help of some missing person organizations, which did aid them with performing local searches. And there was a very important area that they would search. Curtis was from Quinlan, but rumors began to circulate that he had often taken girls back to his grandparents' property in Waco Bay on Lake Tawakoni. The Q Center for Missing Persons came in, and since Curtis's grandparents had passed away, they were able to get permission from the current owners to search that property. But nothing was found. And Louise believes that there was one area of the property that they couldn't search because it was covered in debris. but a satellite view of the property showed a strange mark in the earth in that general area. She said it was the shape of a rectangle, which Louise believes could be a grave. But for some reason, it seemed that that spot or that part of the land was inaccessible to the searchers. Shortly after Sarah's disappearance, Curtis was arrested and charged with sexual assault against a minor. Now, this was involving someone else, not in regards to Sarah. Prosecutors did want to charge him with crimes against Sarah, but without Sarah being present, they couldn't make the charges stick. Curtis would do 60 days in jail and then he would be let out on parole. But he soon violated his parole and was sent back to prison to serve a 9-year sentence. In the days, weeks, and months after Sarah's disappearance, her parents did everything they could to raise awareness and get help finding their daughter. They were successful in gaining the attention of the news media for a while, and they even went on the Montel Williams show at one point. They were not giving up. On the 1-year anniversary of Sarah's disappearance, her parents received an odd letter in the mailbox. It was handwritten, and it simply said that if they wanted answers as to the whereabouts of their daughter, they should ask Lisa St. Clair. Louise and John weren't sure who Lisa St. Clair was. They were soon able to figure it out. They went to Lisa's house and asked her what she knew. Lisa said that she had been a friend of Sarah's, but she had no idea what happened to her. She didn't know anything. Louise, doing her own little detective work, was able to figure out that Lisa was also friends with a woman named Amber. And Louise knew Amber very well. Amber had been a good friend of Sarah's. They were all in this same circle of friends, it seemed. One of the girls told Louise that Curtis and one of his friends had said they buried Sarah's body because she overdosed on drugs. She said she thinks that she had been buried in a nearby rock quarry. And that quarry was searched after this lead came in, but again, nothing was found. Louise, however, does believe that the drug overdose is a very possible theory. Sightings. Sightings would come in of Sarah, and the family jumped on every single one. Now, these sightings are officially unconfirmed. However, some media outlets have reported one or more of these sightings as being confirmed. I'm going to pass along the ones that family believed could have some merit, or at the very least, credible sightings. Please keep in mind, it is unclear if any of these sightings are actually confirmed by law enforcement. May 1st, 2001. This is the day of Sarah's disappearance. Her father dropped her off at 7:20 a.m. that morning. Sarah is then allegedly seen near the school around 3:30 p.m., getting into an older blue Ford pickup truck. The driver of the truck is described as a Caucasian man in his 30s with brown hair and a pencil mustache. Sarah willingly got into his truck, according to the witness. Unknown date. Sarah is allegedly seen at a phone booth in the nearby small town of Caddo Mills, Texas. June 2001. A reported sighting of Sarah comes in from the Exxon Mobil gas station across the street from Walmart in Greenville. Louise immediately goes to the station to review the surveillance footage, and she is certain that it is indeed Sarah, and she isn't alone. She is with Curtis Bell. At first, Curtis said it was him, but the woman he was with was not Sarah. It was someone else. But Louise adamantly believes that was her daughter on that video. Curtis then changes his story and says it wasn't him on the video after all. It was someone completely different. June 2001. Another sighting comes in of Sarah, although this one is not reported right away. A woman who knew Sarah was with her daughter in the Walmart store when she saw Sarah. She pointed her out to her daughter, who also knew Sarah, and her daughter agreed. That person that they were looking at was definitely Sarah Kinslow. The woman immediately pulled out her phone and wanted to call in the tip, but her daughter stopped her and said that friends claimed that Sarah had left an abusive home and that some of her family members actually did know where she was and that she was okay. This lady, believing her daughter, decided not to call the tip in right away, although her conscience later got to her and she called Louise to tell her what she saw. This was around the same time as the sighting in the Exxon gas station, which was right across the street from Walmart. So right away, Louise believes the lady did see Sarah. Sarah was also seen getting into an older blue Ford pickup truck at this Walmart with a young teen boy, possibly around 13 to 14, and an older man, possibly the boy's father. At least that's what the woman thought. Louise does believe this to be a credible sighting. July 2001. A family friend claims to have seen Sarah in a vehicle in Quinlan, Texas. This family friend had known Sarah since she was a very little girl, and Louise and John said that she would absolutely know Sarah if she saw her. And they said they saw Sarah in a car, an older brown 70s type of car. They were able to get the license plate number and said once the people in the car saw them looking at them, the car immediately changed lanes and sped off. Authorities were able to trace that license plate number to an owner, but the man claimed to have no idea who Sarah was. And it's possible he was telling the truth because the car had actually been transferred to several different owners in the few months leading up to this sighting. Greenville, Texas. Sarah vanished from Greenville, Texas, but her case also takes us to Quinlan, Texas, and Waco Bay, Texas. Greenville has a population of around 25,000 residents and is located about 50 miles to the northeast of Dallas, Texas. Greenville is the capital of Hunt County. Sarah was last seen by her parents when she was dropped off at Greenville Middle School. She was supposedly meeting her friends, unbeknownst to her parents, at the East Mount Cemetery, which is about 1.5 miles from the school. Curtis Bell was from Quinlan, Texas. Quinlan is 20 miles south of Greenville and is known as the Greater Lake Tawakoni area. Quinlan is a very small town, with the population being around 1,300 residents. Curtis also had grandparents that lived in a lake neighborhood near Waco Bay. Waco Bay is also part of the Greater Lake Tawakoni area as well. And it's pretty rural there, very spread out. And it is an area that is known for drug activity, likely because of the remote nature of that area. In fact, that area is ranked with an 89% for crime in the state of Texas, meaning that it is more dangerous than 89% of other Texas cities and towns. Lake Tawakoni is also a very large lake itself, covering over 38,000 acres. And while some areas of the lake might have a not-so-good reputation, Lake Tawakoni is also a popular recreation lake, with Lake Tawakoni State Park bringing in visitors for fishing, swimming, and all sorts of water activities. Many people, including Sarah's family, believes that she may have been alive for a while. But since sightings all but stopped after 2001, and it's been so many years that by now she is likely deceased. And the area of focus continues to be Lake Tawakoni and the Waco Bay area. But we have to keep in mind, without any evidence pointing us directly to any specific location, Sarah Kinslow could almost be anywhere. So what do you think happened to Sarah Kinslow back in 2001? Did she run away? Could she be alive now and living somewhere far from Greenville and far from people that would recognize her? Sarah is described as a Caucasian girl, 14 years old when she was last seen in 2001. She had shoulder-length blonde hair and blue eyes. She stood 5'4" tall and weighed around 100 pounds back when she was last seen in May of 2001. Sarah has a tattoo of the letter L on the inside of her ankle, 2 chickenpox scars to the left of her nostrils, an additional chickenpox scar on her left temple. Her teeth are crooked. The 2 upper front ones overlap each other just slightly, and her ears have multiple piercings. She also has a mole on the right side of her neck near her collarbone. Her missing person notes on the Charlie Project point out that she may have grown taller since her disappearance. Remember, she was only 14. She may also have dyed her hair another color, possibly brown, and or cut it short. Anyone with any information on the whereabouts of Sarah Kinslow is asked to contact the Greenville Police Department at 903-457-2900.